matrix form. So we have 1, 3, -5, -4, 2, -4, 3, 8, 7, -9, 4, 20. Now it's always good to remind ourselves of the process that we're using. We start with a 1 in the upper left-hand corner. That's called the pivot. Notice it is a 1. If it was not a 1, we'd have to divide to make everything a 1, divide the entire row by the same number. Once I have the pivot, I figure out how to put a 0 underneath it and a 0 underneath that. So we're going to use this pivot 1 to get rid of that 2 and that 7 first. We're going to get rid of the 2 by multiplying the first row by -2. That'll give me -2 times 1 plus 2 will give me 0 there. So we're going to say row 2 is -2 times row 1 plus row 2. -2 times row 1, -2, -6, 10, 8. Add that to row 2, which is 2, -4, 3, 8. And the result is 0, -10, 13, 16. That's my new row 2. So we used the pivot of the 1 to turn it into a 0 underneath it. We're going to do the same thing to get rid of that 7. So what I have now is first row stays the same, 1, 3, -5, -4. Second row has become 0, -10. 13, 16. Now I want to get rid of that 7. So I need a -7 to add to 7. So multiply the first row by -7. And I will say row 3 is -7 times row 1 plus row 3. What is -7 times row 1? I haven't written down row 3. I guess I should put it in there, my old row 3. 7, -9, 4, 20. -7 times 1 is -7. -7 times 3 is -21. -7 times -5 is +35. -7 times -4 is +28. Add that to 7, -9, 4, 20. And what do I get? You get 0, -30, 39, 48. So that'll put us a 0 in that spot. And once we have a 0 there, then we move up to the middle, make him a 1. That'll be our new pivot here shortly. And then we use that 1 to get a 0 underneath there. Those are the next 2 steps of our process. But let's go ahead and create our next matrix. So we have row 1 and row 2 will be the same, but we are creating row 3. Here we go. Row 1 is still 1, 3, -5, -4. Row 2 is still 0, -10, 13, 16, and row 3 is 0, -30, 39, 48. Now remember what we wanted? We wanted a 1 to be our pivot. So I want a 1 in this slot. Currently, there is a -10 in that slot. This has got to be my pivot. Currently, there's a -10 in that slot. What do I have to do? I'm going to divide that second row by -10. So my new row 2 will be the old row 2 divided by -10. So 0 divided by -10 is 0. -10 divided by -10 is +1. 13 divided by -10, -13 tenths. 16 divided by -10, -16 tenths, which I could reduce if I wanted to. I don't really see an advantage to calling it -8/5. Sometimes it's better just to keep the same denominator. That is now my new row 2, and that 1 will be my new pivot. So row 1, 1, 3, -5, -4. My new row 2 is 0, 1, -13 tenths, -16 tenths, and 0, -30, 39, 48. So I need to take this one, I need to take this pivot and get rid of that negative 30. So I'm going to need to multiply this row by positive 30. So the new row 3 is going to be 30 times row 2 plus row 3. Well, 30 times 0 is 0. 30 times 1 is 30. 30 times negative 13/10. Maybe we'll jump to the calculator to do that, which I've already done, but I'll do again here. 30 times negative 13/10. Negative 13 divided by 10 gives me negative 39. So 30 times negative 13/10, negative 39. Now I need 30 times negative 16/10. 30 times negative 16/10. What does that give me? That gives me negative 48. So that was 30 times the second row. Add that to the third row, 0, negative 30, 39, 48. Looking at these numbers, you say, 0, 0, 0, and 0. That is my new row 3. So let's look at our current matrix. Where are we now? Where are we now? First row is the same. 1, 3, negative 5, negative 4. Second row is the same. 0, 1, negative 13/10, negative 16/10. Third row, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now I want you to think about what that last row tells me. Remember, our columns were X, Y, Z. First column was X. Second column was Y. Third column was Z. So my last equation is 0x plus 0y plus 0z equals 0. That doesn't really give me anything of value. My first equation is 1x plus 3y minus 5z equals negative 4. And my second equation is 0x. I don't really need y minus, or 1y minus 13/10 z equals negative 16/10. And my last equation is just 0 equals 0. So my goal was to express the solution in parametric form and also to find two solutions. So let's look at this. I'm going to write my equations with the y one first this time. Y minus 13/10 z equals negative 16/10. And the first equation was 1x plus 3y minus 5z equals negative 4. Well, what can I say? What can I say? I'm going to let z equal t. So then this equation becomes y equals, becomes y minus 13/10 t equals negative 16/10. So adding 13/10 to both sides, we get y is negative 16/10 plus 13/10 of t. And then I'm going to plug that in for y here and plug t in for z here. So 1x plus 3y, what did we say y is? Negative 16/10 plus 13/10 t minus 5z minus 5t equals negative 4. So I get 1x. What is 3 times negative 16/10? 3 times negative 16/10 gives us change it to a fraction, gives us negative 24/5 plus negative 24/5 plus, how about 3 times 13/10 of t So that's 3 times 13 tenths, and then don't forget the t. Three times 13 tenths is 39 tenths. Minus 5t equals -4. So I have 39 tenths t minus 5 tenths t. So what is 39 tenths minus 5? 39 tenths t minus 5t gives me how much? -1.1 t, or as a fraction, which we prefer, -11 tenths t. So these two together give me -11 tenths t. And we have x minus 24/5 plus -11 tenths t equals -4. So I guess I have to add 24/5 to both sides for sure. Add 24/5 to both sides. That would give me x minus 11 tenths t equals -4 plus 24/5. Let's see what that is. -4 plus 24/5 gives us 4/5. And finally, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add 11 tenths t to both sides. Add 11 tenths t here. Add 11 tenths t there. And I get x equals 4/5 plus 11 tenths of t. That's x. Earlier we said y was -16 tenths plus 13 tenths of t. And earlier we said z was t. So that's our parametric form. I like to write that in terms of triples. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the next page here. So what are my three rules? We have x is 4/5 plus 11 tenths t. Y is -16 tenths, or -8/5. I'll probably change it now. Plus 13 tenths of t. Z is t. So writing it as an order triple, 4/5 plus 11 tenths t. -16 tenths is -8/5 plus 13 tenths of t, and z is t. There is my parametric solutions, where t could be any real number. Now, what if I let t equal 0? What's one of my solutions? 4/5 plus 11 tenths of 0, -8/5 plus 11 tenths of 0, and t is 0. That's one solution. And then how about if t equals 1, what would it be? If t equals 1, 4/5 plus 11 tenths, -8/5 plus 13 tenths, t is 1. But again, t could be anything. And let's just quickly figure out what those numbers are so we can go ahead and check it. So jump back to the calculator. 4/5 plus 11 tenths. 4/5 plus 11 tenths. What does that give me? It gives me 19 tenths. So the first one is 19 tenths. Second one, -8/5 plus 13 tenths. -8/5 plus 13 tenths gives me -3 tenths. And then we have 1. So I'd like to check that. So I have two answers. I have this is one of my answers. This is another answer, but there are in fact infinitely many. And that's what it looks like in terms of our infinitely many. Before I finish this, I like to check those. I like to plug those values in and see what we get. So I'm going to go back to the calculator here. 4/5 was x. So 4/5 store in x. -8/5 store in y. -8/5 store in y. 0 store in z. And I want to go back to my original question, if I can find it. My original question was here, right? X plus 3y minus 5z. Let's see if that's -4. X plus 3y minus 5z. We hope that's -4, and it is. What's our second equation to check? So the first one checked. 2x minus 4y plus 3z. We hope that's 8. Two x minus 4y plus 3z. Again, we hope that's 8. Is it? It is. That checks. Feeling good about ourselves. And then we have 7x minus 9y plus 4z. Let's see if that's 20. 7x minus 9y plus 4z. Let's see if that's 20. And it is. And let's see, that was one of our answers. We had a second possibility. Remember, 19/10, -3/10, 1. So we'll plug those into the calculator to check 19/10 store in x, -3/10 store in y, and 1 store in z. And we're going to go back to our equations. We needed x plus 3y minus 5z, x plus 3y minus 5z. We hope it equals -4. It does. Check. Great. 2x minus 4y plus 3z. We hope that equals 8, and it does. And our last check, 7x minus 9y plus 4z. We hope this equals 20, and it does.